Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. We are right at 10 a.m. So I thought I'd go ahead and just jump back on and folks will join us as they come on. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started since we are at 10 a.m. Elena Santizo here with you this morning to talk about the Sports Tourism Grant Program. So thank you so much for joining us on this snowy Friday. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video. I've got the PowerPoint, but feel free to use the chat, raise your hand if you have questions. We'll also certainly open it up there at the end. I'd really like to spend some time answering your questions during this morning's session. So we are here this morning to talk about the Sports Tourism Grant. As I said, Elena Santizo, along with my colleague, Macy Pullman, will be administering this program here at IEDA and working with the Enhance Iowa Board to make these approvals. My planned comments are pretty short, so I'd like to really focus on any questions that you have, like I mentioned, at the end or as we go along. The Sports Tourism Grant Program was allocated $1.5 million during this last legislative session to provide grant assistance for marketing promotion of new sporting events in Iowa. It does allow funding to represent up to 50% of eligible promotional costs, not to exceed $500,000. These funds can be used to promote any level of sporting event from amateur to professional here in the state of Iowa. One thing I want to mention here, if you're seeing these large numbers, $500,000 maximum award, and thinking that your organization can't compete with large proposals with over $1 million of qualified investment, I want to tell you and let you know that the Enhance Iowa Board will be making approvals in this program, and they're intending to consider projects large and small. We fully expect to see and fund proposals that vary widely. So don't let those numbers send you one way or another. This board is very used to seeing projects of a different nature, admittedly, large and small, but that's certainly something that they're committed to looking at. So I wanted to make that point today. And lastly, if you have an event that is not new, but you'd like your promotional costs to be considered under this program, you'll need to identify how the marketing campaign is new. This fund is not designed to subsidize ongoing or existing marketing plans. Eligible applicants to this program include Iowa cities, counties, and not-for-profit organizations. A CVB, a common player in this marketing space, is an eligible applicant unless that entity has received financial assistance under the Regional Sports Authority program in that same fiscal year. And so we'll be using the timing of the proposed marketing and event to determine whether assistance is received in that same year. The costs that we'll be considering are shown here, and kind of general expectations on what you might think of for an eligible cost. I think sometimes it's more important to talk more about what we can't consider. So we're not able to provide assistance on bid fees. It is the intent that these funds go towards marketing and promoting an event that has already committed to occurring in Iowa. The event should be committed before there's any application. So those bid fees will not come into play. We also cannot consider infrastructure costs within your community or to your facility. This is really something that's either temporary in nature for the project, for the promotion of the project or event, I should say, but not something that would be a permanent improvement. All eligible costs must fall within the contract dates. So the contract will begin on the date of approval by the Enhance Iowa Board. And so not the date of application or so on, but the day that they formally make that approval. And we'll talk through that application process next. You kind of understand the schedule that we're looking at. So the application process is designed to go in about a month's time. Our hope is to make a clean process that gets you the feedback that you need quickly. We'll be accepting applications on the first of the month, starting on February 1st of 2022. So just under a month from now. And we'll be doing that monthly through June 1st of 2022. Additional application deadlines will be added after June if program funds remain, but we may move the frequency to quarterly. And we're just going to leave that kind of open and see how this monthly deadline progresses. Is it successful? Does the board like it? Does it work well? Or do we need to maybe spread them out a bit? So we'll be reassessing that and communicating that as soon as we are able. If no follow-up questions from either IEDA staff or Enhance Iowa board members arise from your application, it will be forwarded to the Sports Tourism Committee for scoring. This is a committee of the Enhance Iowa Board. It was appointed earlier this year, so they are ready and excited to begin that process. I should note that the statute governing this program requires an application be submitted at least 90 days prior to the proposed event. This does not mean that you need to wait until 90 days or just before 90 days to apply. That's the minimum amount of time. We certainly expect to see applications much sooner than that, given the promotion and so on needs to occur after you've received your formal approval. The Sports Tourism Committee will make a recommendation to award, defer, or deny the application at the next Enhance Iowa Board meeting, assuming that there are no outstanding questions, concerns, and so on. This board meets on the first Thursday of the month. So just kind of putting it out into real dates for you. For an application received on February 1st, we might hope to accept your next application, or excuse me, we would hope to perhaps make our first set of approvals at their meeting in the first week of March. So that's kind of our ideal process. As you can imagine, if there's questions or things we need to have dialogue on, it may take longer. You will submit your completed and signed application to us at the Enhance Iowa email address that's shown there. It's also on our website on the application form itself, so you can't miss that. This is a great email really to use for any communication. If you need to reach Macy or me with your questions, you don't have our direct email, you can always use this. She and I check this frequently. Our contact is also on the web, so you're welcome to reach out to either of us at any time. Scoring. So the applications, once they're in, they'll go to the committee for scoring. These are the factors that will be considered for the scoring. And as you can see, economic impact and sort of new, unique, and innovative are the two factors that garner the most points. That's what we understood from the legislature, that they really wanted this to drive tourism. So tourism, while we are very excited about quality of life opportunities and opportunities for locals, we're going to be measuring the economic impact by hotel room nights generated by this event. So folks coming into the community, staying overnight, making a trip of it for that economic impact. And there's a chart in the application that helps you estimate that. And then the new, unique, innovative, diverse, we're looking at a number of things here. Is it a new event, number one? Does it bring something new to your area, to the state? Does the event or proposed marketing reach a group that's not typically reached? That kind of thing is what we're trying to get at with that sort of uniqueness and innovative type of scoring. The following two, quality and size of the project, as well as a leverage, ratio of public to private investment. They'll be a part of the application where you will document the matching funds. A minimum of 50% of your proposal does need to come from other funds. We do not allow other state funds to match these funds, so private, city, county, whatever else you may have there. And then those projects that receive at least an average score of 75 or more out of the committee would be eligible for funding. And so that funding recommendation would go then to the full Enhance Iowa board once that scoring process was completed. So grant approvals and next steps. The awards, as I mentioned, of course, will be done through the Enhance Iowa board. They'll meet at their monthly meeting and these will flow through those. This is a brand new program, so we may make tweaks to this process, as you can imagine. I appreciate in advance your patience with us as we get that going. We're trying our best to lay this out, but I would imagine that we'll need to make some adjustments as we move through. The board may ask applicants to attend the meeting, either in person person or virtually, to speak about the proposal and answer questions. That's one piece of this process that hasn't been fully determined. When we met with the board last month to finalize our plans before releasing the application, it came up, and I think that they certainly enjoy having direct dialogue with applicants. So I think that it's very likely that we'll invite you, offer at least some opportunity for some back and forth. Probably not a full-blown presentation, but maybe just some opportunity to say a few words and answer questions. So be thinking about that, and know that virtual attendance is certainly acceptable. So if you're coming in from a long ways away, we will always make that available to you. All of the Enhance Iowa board meetings are public. So whether you've been invited to present or speak, you're more than welcome to attend either in person or virtually. And we have an agenda that goes out at least 24 hours in advance. And if you need help with finding that or anything like that, feel free to reach out to Macy or me. Following the approval, the grant recipient will enter into a contract with IEDA for either 1 or 2 year period, depending on the project timeline provided in the application. Our administrative rules do limit it to a 2-year maximum contract length, so don't propose anything longer than that. Grant funds will be dispersed as a reimbursement. So we'll collect invoices from you and do a reimbursement based on those qualified investments that do occur during the contract dates. This is my last slide, and it's nothing really earth-shattering, but it's just something that I put out here. And this is true about any grant that you write, but thinking about this process with the sports tourism, we are hoping to turn this around, and your help in getting these written in a clear and concise way will really help move things along. So please do, I know this is probably something you've heard 100 times, but review the whole application and then ask questions if you aren't clear. I've got the link here. Most of you probably have already found the application form if you found us on this webinar this morning, but if you haven't already, take a look at that application. There are a lot of questions on there attempting to get at different things. If it's not clear what we're trying to get to, please don't hesitate to reach out. The other thing I would say is write your responses, assuming that the reader is not familiar with your event or your organization. Enhance Iowa board members are from across the state. They have varying backgrounds. So I would say don't take any of those details for granted. It's always helpful for us to understand who you are, what you're doing from a basic level, but then using, concise language. If you find yourself, copying and pasting or reiterating stuff, I would say maybe go back and take those out and don't do that, because it just really kind of gets bogged down and takes us a little longer to get at what you're trying to do. And we want to be able to be very responsive in moving things ahead. We don't call for it, but there is certainly any additional, if it's appropriate for your particular proposal, adding visual aids or any other additions, you're welcome to include those as well. Since you'll be submitting this via email, you'll have the signed copy of the application. The application calls for attaching a W-9, which is also on our website. You'll attach your documentation of matching funds, and then if there's something that you'd like to show for an additional visual that you weren't able to insert into the PDF application, that would be fine as well. So those are really all of my planned comments. So I'm going to stop sharing the presentation right now and simply look for your questions.
Elena, we do have a couple of questions from Dave. He dropped them in the chat, but I will let him have the opportunity to unmute himself and ask them directly if he would like to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, since sorry, since we've got the expertise and do a lot of grant applications with IEDA, and that's something at our core, can Visit Quad Cities as the official DMO for the region, we are receiving our said funding. Can we do the application and the legwork and submit it on behalf of a particular event or event rights holder, where this flow of funds would go directly to that particular event, but we would be submitting that application on their behalf because we've got that skill set? Or is that not open for us to do since we receive our said funding directly? And then second question is, has the Sports Tourism Committee already been determined, and just trying to get a feel for who they are and what their background is and experience within this space?
Certainly. So your first question, can you submit an application on behalf of another recipient? I would say no, not officially. The applicant and ultimate recipient does need to submit the application. That being said, if they want to work with you to essentially write it and work it out locally, that you play a large role in getting that prepared and put together, by all means. That's your expertise and your relationship locally. Folks sometimes hire or use other connections to write these things. That is well within their purview to do that. Happy to let that occur. You mentioned the RSAD. For anyone that's not familiar, the Regional Sports Authority District overlap. We've tried to look closely at how best to make sure that we're following the law, which requires that we not provide funding together, but also be fair and understanding that CVBs might want to know where they stand in one place before they make such a decision. So we'll be, and I mentioned this earlier, but I know some folks were joining late, will need to know we will allow for promotion and an event to occur in the following fiscal year, and you can apply. So using this fiscal year, for example, you could apply yet this year, this spring, April or May, for events that will occur and promotion that will occur after July 1 in the next fiscal year. So that's just one little clarification on that Regional Sports Authority versus sports tourism grant opportunity. Your second question was about the Sports Tourism Committee, and yes, it has already been appointed. I do not have the listing right in front of me. I can pull it up, or I can also follow up with you with it. I will say bluntly that the Enhance Iowa Board's core purpose has been to award funds out of for the CAT fund, so they're more infrastructure related grants. That is admittedly what the board is more used to doing. It's more of their background. You're going to see folks that have maybe some more banking backgrounds and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't assume that there's a ton of marketing and promotion backgrounds on this particular board. So not taking for granted that the reviewer automatically knows exactly what you mean when you use certain vernacular. It would be very good advice with this application.
Thank you.
Elena, we have another question from Tim Galligan about availability requirements. Just says, please list availability requirements. So perhaps Tim could speak maybe a little more directly to his question.
Yes, Tim, are you on the line, and would you mind unmuting? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. I
apologize. I'm kind of in a hurry here between a couple meetings, and I think I worded that wrong. Who is availability, or what programs or organizations would be available? Sorry if you were talking about that.
Nope, that's okay. Cities, counties, and nonprofits are eligible recipients under the program.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I saw another question from.
Yep, we do.
Okay, so how would a W-9 form be filled out? The event is nonprofit. So a W-9 is basically the form that we collect, which shows the federal ID number associated with the applicant. So that would be filled out on behalf of the applicant. Nonprofits have them too, so do cities, so do counties. It's required for any payment that we make out of state accounting. So it is how we pay you your grant. So if you're not sure about that form, we can certainly get it pulled up with you maybe outside of this particular webinar. It's on our website, so if you're already clicking around, you can take a look at it. It's pretty basic, but it does basically have you sign off to say, this is who our organization is, this is our federal ID number, and it goes to our state accounting for allowing us to pay you.
Hi, this is Lori. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. But regarding that, so for example, if it's a function that I'm going to produce or have here in Muscatine, Iowa, the W-9 would be filled out in my name because, I mean, it's a nonprofit, but it would be in the event's name or my name because the event doesn't have an EIN number.
Well, who would be doing the marketing or promotion of the event?
Well, I don't know. That would be through the PBA or through myself. I'm not sure.
So that's how we'll determine the eligible. So if you're doing it as an individual, you wouldn't be eligible to apply, unfortunately, because it does need to be a city, county, or a nonprofit organization doing the marketing and promotion of the event. So I think that that's really the question here is who's the appropriate applicant? And then that's the entity that's going to be doing the proposed promotion. And then that's the appropriate entity to complete that W-9 form.
Okay, so if I have, I don't know how to describe it. I'll process that and see and get back with you and see who's going to be in charge of doing that. So, okay, got it. Thank you so much.
No problem. I see another one just popped up. Does the sporting event have to be a confirmed event in order to apply, or can be an event that we are bidding on? Great question. We are not allowing bid fees. So the event does need to be committed to this location before submitting for assistance to this program. And then I think the question goes on to say, so yes, no, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do the grant contingent on receiving confirmation of the event.
Elena, I do have your list of committee members. Would you like me to drop them in the chat?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Jessica, my right-hand woman this morning. Jessica is very important. She does a lot of our promotion for IEDA and the Enhance Iowa Board, and she's helping me out today so very wonderfully. Thank you. I am open to any other questions that have come up as we've talked through this. You can feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand or actually just shout them out if you want to.
Hi, this is Leslie from Clinton, Iowa. I have a question. In terms of a sporting event, what if it's an event that's a greater event, but a sporting is a component of it? So it's like a multi-day festival and then there's a sporting component.
I think there's some potential there. You know, we do have to tie it to a sporting event. So we'd look to you in the application to make that case that the marketing and promotion is dedicated to that sporting event because that is the emphasis of this particular program, but I'm certainly open to it.
Okay, thank you.
Elena, there's a question about accessing the recording after the webinar.
Yes, I believe the intent is to get this on the web, so it should be available there within the next, I would think, couple of business days, just to give me a chance to download it from our system when we're done here today and over to our communications and IT folks.
And another question about defining a sporting event. Yes,
and I'm gonna grab my legal papers that I have here with me for the sporting event question. So this is an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess, usually competitive in nature and governed by a set of rules provided by a nationally recognized sanctioning body. A sporting event typically includes the placing of competitors into a fixed order of finish, depending upon their respective athletic performance within the rules provided for that activity. So that is a very legalese way to describe a sporting event, but I think it does cover what we're looking to fund here. We recognize that there will be some things that maybe are a little bit different from some of the standard, most popular types of sporting events. Is there something you'd like to call it out specifically? Mountain biking, you know, potentially, if it follows the, you know, there's a true competition related to it, certainly I think we could consider some sort of biking or cycling type of event. Okay, I see another question about timing. We are actually allowed to consider up to 2 years. So we'd be looking for events that occur, they could actually occur really before July 1, and I'm doing a quick math. So you must apply at least 90 days prior to your event. So being our first opportunity to apply is February 1st. 90 days after that date is really the first eligible date that an event could occur, and then we can actually consider up to 2 years. So you can kind of think about what you have in mind for your event. The law does allow us to consider a 2-year time period for promotion and event, so we've got some flexibility there.
Elena, could you perhaps maybe share the scoring criteria again?
Certainly.
Pull up your screen again.
I'm going to go ahead and come back to that slide, and then I will share. So here is the scoring criteria, put in a little bit of a boiled down rubric, but I would encourage you to take a look at the application. It's outlined there as well, and I can certainly answer any questions about this if there's one that you'd like me to dive in a little deeper on.
There's another question unrelated to the scoring rubric, whether the grant is only for programming.
Programming, I guess I would probably not use the word programming so much as the marketing and promotion. It does allow for some production costs related to the event, but specifically excludes infrastructure costs. So, you know, your organization's regular programming types of activities, no. So I'm not sure how deeply I can go into that, or if I can clarify that a little bit, please feel free to let me know. Okay. Any other questions this morning? I'm not hearing any. I'll give it another minute, but I do, you know, if there's something that comes up in 5 minutes or next week or any other time, please feel free to reach out to Macy and me. You can use the Enhance Iowa email or find us on the web. Our website does already have much of the information about this. We released the application form about a week ago, exactly a week ago, actually. So maybe you've seen it. If you haven't already, go ahead and look at that. That'll certainly give you some perhaps more questions, but further guidance on what we'd be needing and wanting from you. I'm getting thank yous in the chat, so I'm thinking that we're looking about, oh, I did get a question. Okay, is the committee looking for tourism from out of state or tourism from one city to another? That's a good question. You know, I think out of state travel is really exciting. There's definitely something to be said for that. We'll be measuring economic impact by hotel room stays. So, you know, if me, Elena, a traveler from Des Moines, goes up to Decorah, spends the weekend, stays overnight, I am just as much of a tourist as someone who drove across from Illinois. So we're looking for folks coming to the community from outside of the community for looking at that economic impact. Okay, I've gotten a request to go back to my screen for the eligible costs, which I'll do right now. Here are what we're calling eligible and ineligible costs. Obviously, these are very high level bullet points, I realize, and we can try to dig in a little deeper if you've got something specific on your mind. Okay. We got that, so I'm going to close that out for the moment. Anything else that I can speak to this morning? I also see Jessica has placed our website in the chat. Thank you, Jessica.
There is an additional question there in the
Yes.
chat now as well.
What were the preference priorities? I would like some clarification on that question. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and letting me know kind of what, as far as type of project or expenses, what could you clarify? Okay, don't have a mic. Sorry about that. Perhaps you could types of projects. So these are marketing and promotion of sporting events. I don't know that we have in particular a preference of a type of event or type of promotion per se. We've really been guided by the folks that brought this program forward through funding through the legislature is that they really want to see the tourism draw. So an event or an opportunity of marketing that you are pulling folks in. It does need to be a new event or a new campaign. So this is not designed to subsidize something that's existing or that's ongoing, but a new opportunity, something that's bringing something new to your community, something innovative would score better than perhaps an existing event that's being tweaked. Any other questions? About the time I wrap it up, I get a new question, so I don't want to close out on you too quickly, but it does seem to be slowing down, so I don't want to keep you all longer than is needed. I guess I'll say last call for questions in the chat, or if you've got one, please shout it out. I'll be wrapping it up here. Okay, I've got one. We host a wrestling tournament. Okay, so yeah, you're referencing an existing tournament. You would need to identify a new campaign or a new promotion to qualify to score in a competitive way under the program. We're not going to be providing grants to simply promote in the exact same way an existing event. Okay. Well, I didn't see a flood of questions when I gave last call, so please feel free to reach out to me in the near future with your questions. And with that, I will wrap up our webinar for today, and we'll get this out on the web for others to view. And good luck, and looking forward to working with all of you in the coming months on your applications. Have a great weekend, everybody.